We apologize for the disruption there, which I believe was a network issue. But inshallah, from now on, I believe the network should be stable. So we once again apologize for the disruption in the network. So going to the discussion again in terms of the cryptocurrency and blockchain. So as I mentioned, that you could consider the cryptocurrency to be a peer-to-peer transaction, or a peer-to-peer financial transaction, which is verified by different computers, which then serve as what is called nodes. So the network of nodes validates the transaction and the user status using known algorithms. A verified transaction can involve cryptocurrency, contracts, records, or other information. Once verified, the transaction is combined with other transactions to create a new block of data for the ledger. So we refer to this as what is called a digital ledger that is essentially backed by the blockchain. So the blockchain is considered to be the underlying technology, and the crypto is considered to be the peer-to-peer transaction that happens on this layer over the blockchain. The new block is then added to the existing blockchain in a way that is permanent and unalterable. So this is the key point when it comes to cryptocurrency and blockchain transactions. The transaction is then complete. So what are some of the main features of cryptocurrency? So it has no intrinsic value in that it is not redeemable for another commodity such as gold. It has no physical form and exists only in the network. Its supply is not determined by a central bank, and the network is completely decentralized. So essentially, and we'll unpack this as we go along, is that in terms of the cryptocurrency and the blockchain, there are essentially three different types of ledgers. You get a public ledger, you get a private ledger, and you have a hybrid ledger. So the public ledger is what is termed as decentralized finance, or DeFi, where it is not controlled by any one entity. So the entire system is controlled by all the parties which are defined as nodes or members of the peer-to-peer network, and the veracity of the network is based on this decentralized function, where different parties can communicate to each other in terms of a digital currency backed by encrypted software technology called the blockchain. So if you see the next slide, it discusses again how blockchain works. A transaction is requested, a block that represents the transaction is created, the block is sent to every node in the network, and nodes validate the transaction. The nodes receive a reward for the proof of work, and the block is added to the existing blockchain. The transaction is then completed. So this is how the blockchain works, in that you have different blocks that are added as transactions are completed. So we've now discussed and defined what is the blockchain. So we now go to cryptocurrencies, and essentially there are four types of cryptocurrencies. You have Bitcoin, which is a store of value. You have digital currencies like Libra, which is backed by Facebook. You have utility tokens like Ethereum, and you have security tokens. So these are the four different types of cryptocurrency. So when we talk of crypto, we talk of tokens, we talk of crypto, and the blockchain is essentially, as I mentioned before, the underlying software that backs cryptos and tokens. Now, let's go into the background of money and the Sharia view of money and cryptocurrency. So when we talk of money, coins were essentially used in 600 BC by King Alyattes of Lydia in Turkey. This is perhaps one of the earliest examples of the usage of coins. But prior to that, in 9000 BC, you had barter trade where people would exchange commodities for commodities, etc. And perhaps one of the earliest examples of banknotes being used was in China in 118 BC. In the 1950s, you had Western Union that tested its first electronic money transaction. And then obviously we know that we had the Bretton Woods agreement, where the world's finance ministers agreed in 1941 to dispense of the gold standard, where currency was no more backed by gold. So those of you who remember, so those of you who remember that the currencies previously were backed by gold, and it would say on the note that this note is backed by gold, where the bearer can receive the equivalent amount of gold at the central bank. So that was then removed. Now, there are essentially three main views of cryptocurrencies among the scholars. The first view is the view that cryptocurrency is impermissible, and there are certain ulama and scholars like Sheikh Haytham Haddad and other scholars that believe that cryptocurrency is impermissible due to its volatility, etc. The second view is that they consider crypto to be an asset, and it is not a currency. And their view is that because of the volatility, we cannot consider cryptocurrencies to be a valid form or medium of exchange. But yes, we can say it is an asset of value. And the third view is that yes, we can consider cryptocurrencies to be a valid form of or valid medium of exchange because it does have the features of being a medium of exchange. Now let's unpack that further in terms of understanding from an Islamic perspective, or from a Sharia and Islamic jurisprudential perspective, what exactly constitutes currency in Islam. So when we talk of currency in Islam, we talk of thamaniya, meaning that it must be a valid medium of exchange. We talk of istilah, which means that it must gain widespread usage, and we talk of taqawwum. So taqawwum in the sense that it can consider to be a valid asset of value from a Shari'i perspective. So for example, one cannot sell oxygen, which is in the air, because that is something which is not muta'ayyan, it is not specified, it doesn't have taqawwum and value, because it is not captured, and it is not equitized from a Shari'i perspective. So these are the two main elements of currency in Islam, that it must have istilah and taqawwum. And when we talk of mal, we talk of a value in Sharia. Then we refer to al-mal al-mutaqawwam. And those of you who've studied Islamic fiqh will know that when we talk of al-mal al-mutaqawwam, we talk of alladhi yata'arafuhu an-nas. That valid value, or that value which is considered by the people in terms of widespread usage of having value, is considered to be a valid medium of exchange from a Shari perspective. So the key features again is that it has to have istilah, widespread usage, and taqawwum, it must be a valid form of value from a Shari perspective. And when we look at certain cryptos like Bitcoin, etc., you find that the Bitcoin is used as a valid medium of exchange by the likes of PayPal, Tesla, and other institutions globally that now accept Bitcoin as a valid medium of exchange. So you can purchase goods and you can pay someone through Bitcoin. So it is like any other currency where someone could say, you could pay me in dollars, you could pay me in rands, you can also pay me in Bitcoin. So it has now gained widespread usage, and if we do not consider it to be a medium of exchange, definitely we can consider it to be a Shari'i asset of value, and therefore it would be either way permissible. That refers to the Bitcoin specifically. Now, when we talk of Athman, when we talk of currencies in Sharia, let's look at the history of currencies in Sharia. So there's two types of thaman or Athman. You have Athman khilqiyya and you have Athman urfiyya. So Athman khilqiyya refers to normal currency like gold, silver, etc. And urfiyya refers to fiat money which has been accepted as the norm, as a valid medium of exchange. And there's another point to that, is that you also have fulus. Fulus, and we'll come to that in terms of what exactly is fulus and in what context the word fulus was used. So there are essentially four different types of money. You have fiat money, as we know, rands, dollars, etc. You have e-money, like Western Union, etc. You have fiduciary money, like a bill of lading, etc., or a bank guarantee, which can be monetized. And you have commodity money. So these are the different forms of money that we have. And as you can see an evolution of money. So we started off with barter, then we moved on to fiat, then we moved on to gold, we moved on to coins, we moved on to fiat money, e-money, and now perhaps one of the greatest evolutions is crypto money, which is backed by the blockchain and the internet. And when we look at the Islamic fiqh, we find that in the Hanafi madhab, the preferred view, according to Imam Muhammad rahimahullah, one of the great students of Imam Abu Hanifa rahimahullah, is that we consider istilah al-ta'amul, which is widespread usage of a commodity or an asset that is considered to be a medium of exchange. So if people start to consider a certain asset which has value from a Sharia perspective, so there are no non-impermissible elements, then we can consider that to be a medium of exchange. So as you can see, there is no statement here that says that it has to be backed by a central government like a qadi, etc. And to back up that, you find that in the markets of Baghdad, in present-day Iraq, previously you had the market traders that would use what is called fulus. So fulus was basically bronze coins that were not officially recognized as naqd, as a valid form of currency by the government, but the market traders used to use fulus. So perhaps we could say that crypto is the modern form of fulus, although it is not recognized by governments like central bank digital currencies, etc. And I want to also address two other points at this juncture. The first is that when we refer to the volatility of cryptos, etc., the aspect of volatility doesn't necessarily mean that the crypto is not Sharia compliant, because there could be other assets that are also volatile. So we know that with the crash that came due to COVID and the pandemic, that many commodity prices like oil, etc., those prices crashed. So Sharia doesn't look at pricing as a mechanism of determining whether something is compliant or not. We look at the fundamentals from a Sharia perspective, and based on that, we determine whether something is compliant or not. However, we also need to look at the masalih and the maqasid of Sharia. So we have to look at from a broader efficiency perspective in terms of the stability of the global markets and stability of the global economy, whether we can consider the Bitcoin or cryptocurrencies to be a valid medium of exchange, and it does not have an adverse market impact as opposed to having a positive market impact. So Sharia scholars also have a view to protecting the markets and not simply providing irresponsible fatwa or Islamic legal edicts on particular aspects that could destabilize the market. And this is why you find that many scholars have taken the view of holding back as opposed to saying something is compliant. Because to give a fatwa of jawaz is easy, but to retrace that when you through your fatwa, people go into something headlong and it destabilizes the market, for example, or the poorer people get poorer, for example. So we also need to look at that aspect in terms of issuing a fatwa. And I would like to point this out in terms of certain usul or certain principles from a Sharia perspective, that in fiqh and Islamic jurisprudence, the fuqaha have mentioned, or the Islamic juroconsults have mentioned, that when we talk of riba being impermissible, not only is riba impermissible, but the shibha or the resemblance of riba is also impermissible. So those who've studied the Arabic language, you know that there's two words. One is shubha, which refers to a doubt, and one is shibh, which refers to something that resembles something. So anything that resembles interest also is also impermissible. So, and another principle is la darara wa la dirar, that do not cause harm, for example. So we need to look at these overarching Shari'i principles and conduct further research around the issue of cryptocurrencies for the scholars to then determine which are compliant, which are not compliant, etc. The other point is that the cryptos are backed by what is called DeFi, or decentralized finance. So in other words, that when we talk of DeFi, certain cryptos like Ethereum or ETH, it is backed by interest-bearing transactions, and they use the word derivatives, etc., where they say based on the proof of stake or pancake swap. When I heard the word pancake swap, I thought I was in some kitchen or some culinary course or something. So they provide you with interest-based rewards, for example. So we also have to look at the underlying fundamentals of every crypto to see whether those activities they are also Sharia compliant. So that remains a matter of research. Now let's look at the cryptocurrency properties. So the crypto is irreversible, it is pseudonymous, it is fast and secure, it is permissionless, and as I mentioned, you get 3 different types of ledgers. And what are some of the cryptocurrencies? So you have Bitcoin, Ethereum, Ripple, etc. So some of, again, the benefits is that it prevents fraud, it prevents identity theft, settlement fees, settlement is immediate as opposed to other transactions. So for example, if you make if you send US dollars from South Africa to the UK, for example, it might take you 2 days, 3 days, 4 days. Those who are involved in international transactions will know that. But if you make a Bitcoin transaction, it is almost instantaneous. And when it comes to the fees also, the fees are much less. You probably pay the exchange fees through CoinDesk, etc. But when you come to international transactions, you're paying maybe 2%, 3%, based on whatever your bank charges. And most importantly, is you control or you own the crypto in terms of full ownership. So these are the properties of cryptocurrency in terms of the different properties of crypto. So let's look at the market capitalization of crypto. As you can see, that the Bitcoin is over $1 trillion. Ethereum is $213 billion. You have Dogecoin, USD coin, etc. And as you can see, the total market cap has increased over a period of time. So what is the technical definition of money? So some of the main features of money include that it is a store of value, it is a unit of account, it is a valid medium of exchange, and it is a standard of deferred payment. So these are some of the main features of money from a technical perspective. Again, money has to have acceptability, enforceability. It is fungible, meaning you can have other forms of money. So for example, if you have 1 rand, you can replace 1 rand with another 1 rand. It is divisible, it is scarce, it is portable, and it is stable. So meaning that you can use the currency in the time of need and necessity. And perhaps one of the greatest scholars like Allama ibn Nujaym rahimahullah and Allama ibn Abidin rahimahullah, very famous scholars in the Hanafi madhab, have mentioned that the view of money being a medium of exchange is that there must be desirability of money and storability of money. So these are the 2 main functions or requirements of money from a Sharia perspective. And as I mentioned, from an Islamic perspective, that the view is that everything is permissible until we can prove that it is impermissible. Al-aslu fi shay'i al-ibaha. This is the view from a fiqhi perspective, that everything is permitted until we can prove that it is impermissible. So when we look at the future of cryptocurrency and Sharia compliance, we believe that there will be much more of what is called institutionalization at a governmental level or central bank level of cryptocurrencies, where you have certain central banks testing central bank digital coins or CBDs. We know that the State Bank of China has already produced its e-yuan, and they've already started conducting transactions. As far as South Africa is concerned, we know that the Reserve Bank has a committee that is looking into fintech and cryptocurrency. They've also started to position a paper with regards to creating its own e-rand. And perhaps, one of the greatest opportunities for Muslim countries or for the Muslim Ummah is to bring back the gold standard. And how do we do this? We do this by creating a gold-backed crypto. So if we create and we use these advancements or technological advancements to create a crypto that is backed by gold, and we can then trade amongst ourselves and create value amongst ourselves, as opposed to using Western denominated currencies that are foreign to Sharia. So if we used gold-backed crypto, silver-backed crypto, for example, we now bring back the gold standard that is adopted by Sharia. And the hadith of Rasulullah ﷺ is so clear that gold and silver will remain currencies until the day of Qiyamah. And this is a hadith in Sahih Bukhari, one of the most authentic books of hadith, in which Rasulullah ﷺ mentioned now that gold and silver will be currencies until the day of Qiyamah. So this is a fact we cannot dispute, and perhaps we could bring this tradition back by using the cryptocurrency. And obviously, there's a huge opportunity for the usage of smart contracts, blockchain, and decentralized finance, etc. So with that, I would like to terminate the first part of the session by saying that what we do today will determine the success of the Islamic finance industry in the future. The sustainability of this industry is our responsibility. So really, our legacy should be how we can promote Sharia compliance in our financial dealings, because at the end of the day, it comes down to the simple point that if we conduct our affairs in a Sharia compliant manner, then we will achieve barakah in our financial dealings, we will achieve blessings in our dealings, and Allah will protect our wealth because it is halal, Sharia compliant income. So with that, I'd also like to request each one of you to download my ebook on Islamic finance, which is called Your Brief Guide to Islamic Finance, at our website, www.gifsrv.com. And you can also follow me on Twitter for updates on Islamic finance. I've also provided my contact details here, ceo@gifsrv.com, if you wish to pose any questions. So with that, I would like to terminate the first part of the session and open up the floor for question and answers. So if you have any questions, please do not hesitate to put them onto the chat feature, or we can also take live questions. So alhamdulillah, we have one question from our brother Fahim, which says that Mufti Saab, is fixed locked staking permissible as a form of investment? So again, this comes back to the discussion around decentralized finance and looking at the underlying transactions of decentralized finance. So generally, fixed lock staking from a mechanism perspective is Sharia compliant, because you have agreed to a locked form of investment via staking. However, we need to look at the underlying transaction of the proof of stake, or the POS, or the proof of work, and whether those transactions are backed by Sharia fundamentals or not. Generally, what we found is that staking is impermissible, because these transactions have are interest based. They have various forms of derivatives and other impermissible transactions. So the answer to the question is, in general, it would be permitted, but we also have to look at the underlying fundamentals of that and screen the activities to ensure that it is compliant. So the next question is, arbitrage trading permissible? So this is a very good question. So when we talk of the arbitrage trading, that has various subsets to it. So you have arbitrage trading from a crypto perspective in terms of or cryptocurrency perspective in terms of finding the differentiation or the differential between the pricing of one commodity or one currency against the other. Generally, you find with arbitrage trading is that you have what is called put and call parity. So put and call parity refers to where you hedge yourself against loss, and you also create a put and call parity in terms of ensuring a certain level of profit. Now, from a Sharia perspective, this put and call parity would essentially refer to where there's two transactions in one. So in other words, that you have fixed your return and you've also hedged yourself against loss both at once. So this means that you have fixed the end result of the transaction as opposed to the pricing having the possibility of changing during the transaction. So from a Sharia perspective, we say that yes, you could have put and call parity, but it needs to be done in a Sharia compliant manner, where you have what is called the Islamic FX WAD, or the Islamic forward WAD, or the Islamic promissory agreement, Islamic FX swap, or ISDA agreement, etc. So there are Sharia alternatives to this, but in general, arbitrage trading is impermissible because, as I said, it uses aspects of derivatives, put and call parity, etc. Do we have any live questions? I see one of the hands are raised. If you want to ask a live question, you can unmute yourself and pose your question. We have. Okay, go ahead, brother.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi. I'm
Yes, go ahead.
Chantal. I'm Chantal. I would like to ask a question here. It's about okay. Firstly, I'm not sure if your company does do the storage of cryptocurrency. Like if I can buy a cryptocurrency, then store it in your company without buying or selling it. Storage.
Yes.
Me.
Okay.
Did you hear my question?
Yeah, I've heard your question. Just to iterate, you've posed the question with regards to the safe custody or storage of cryptocurrencies, and whether that could be done at our firm, where it is done in a way where it is done off the books, as you've said. So essentially, we ourselves, as GIFS, have partnered with a regulated exchange in the United Arab Emirates, where we have structured a crypto or blockchain platform that is regulated. And inshallah, very soon we will offer global crypto custody done in a Sharia manner, because one of the features, of crypto transactions, whether you consider it to be an asset or valid medium of exchange, is to ensure that you have the services of a wakil, or an agent that can act as a proxy to ensure that the transaction that you conclude is Sharia compliant, and there is a third party to ensure safe custody and the exchange of or the valid exchange of the crypto, whether it's an asset or currency, from a Sharia perspective. So the short answer to that is, from a Sharia perspective, to a certain extent, yes, it's required, but from in terms of operationally, we do not currently offer that. So I think with that, I would like to terminate today's session. And before I terminate, I would like to request each one of you to take a special moment to request for your special du'as for my respected father, Mufti Ebrahim Desai Sahab, who is also my teacher, who is quite ill. He is not critical, but he is quite ill. And we request your du'as, inshallah, for him to be granted complete shifa, inshallah. And we make dua that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protects each one of us, and we are protected from the pandemic and COVID, inshallah. So with that, I would like to say shukran jazilan to Minara Chamber of Commerce for arranging this session, and to all of you, the esteemed attendees, for attending today's discussion.